What's up guys, today is day 240 on our journey to 2000, and in today's video we're going to play a 10-minute rapid game, so let's get started. Okay, we're versing a 1707 rated player from China? Vietnam. I know. That's so embarrassing. Anyway, we're versing a 1707 rated player. We're going to go into the Pierce defense and see what happens. Honestly, some of the light that hits my face makes it hard to see the flag, so I know my flags. Anyway. Okay, so they went f3. They didn't go f4. That's, it protects the pawn, but it doesn't develop a piece, so that looks kind of weird to me. I can develop my knight, but then he could push. I could come here. He could push again. It just looks crazy if he does that. So, you know what? We're just going to continue. We're going to put the bishop on g7 and see what he does. Yeah, our opponent is playing super weird, in my opinion. We're going to castle. We always have the knight coming back here. We could push, takes, and this already looks very, very weird. But I guess the idea is to put pressure on this right away. What if I come here? How can I target this annoying bishop? I'm not sure. Let's go here, try to disrupt everything going on here. I think that's a good idea. Okay, I think we'll just take. Here we could do a couple of things. We could develop the knight. We could take... But then I have a feeling he'll take here. So I think developing the knight so that if he takes, we just take back. That could be an option. Another option is bringing the queen here, coming here with the check. But that doesn't really do anything. Maybe coming here is a good move. And then, no, I think developing the knight first is preferable for me. Also, we always have e6. So let's go e6. He wants to trade off the bishops. That's clearly his goal. I guess he'll get it done. We're still in an okay position. If he tries to check, we just can... Yeah, this guy is playing really weirdly. Very weirdly. Maybe he's triggered or something. We have this check, winning this pawn, which we missed last turn. Maybe check, and then... oh no, then the bishop could have came back. Never mind. What if we give a check now? The knight's gonna develop. We can come here, targeting the... Or come here. Very weird. Now we could push this pawn. If he comes here, we could bring the knight in. We could push this pawn. If he checks, we just bring the king back. So let's do that. Now we could come here targeting this, which looks like a good move. We could also give a check, but then we're helping the knight develop. The bishop here looks pretty good. It just looks very annoying for our opponent. But let's just target this pawn. Just very clear, very easy to make move. His knight can't develop to protect it. He could bring a queen, but then maybe we have a knight coming in. And, oh my god, wait, this is just a beautiful move. We're gonna win the rook. Oh, and, okay. That scared me. Him resigning scared me. I was like, what just happened? Oh my god, we're like on a win streak lately. I have to just, I don't know how it's happening. But our opponent went down to a 1700 rating. We're 1764 now, which is awesome. And let's review the game. Let's see if we missed any advantages or taking advantage of stuff with certain moves. So we played with 81.4% accuracy. We had 2 mistakes. We played like a 2000 supposedly. And we had 1 inaccurate move. Everything else was fine. So I'm curious to see what the mistakes were. So let's go over the game. These were the first few moves. We went into the Pierce. So the counter to f3 is to just continue the Pierce setup, which makes sense. Here, again, I forget about the c5 and c6 setup. So c5 is a very common move. The problem of why I don't like that is like, it feels like what's going on here? I don't really understand. What's the, isn't this, well, I don't know. I guess it just feels weird because we're opening up the center without really having anything set up. But the computer prefers this. And let's see, if bishop comes to f4, we have queen b6, which is an obvious type of move. I'm sure taking is probably fine also, just because we can maybe target this king kind of quicker. But okay, my move was still a good move. Maybe I shouldn't look at that too much. Then he went d5, which gave me an advantage. And taking was a mistake. And we've seen, if you haven't been here before, then you haven't seen. But we've seen on previous videos, on previous days, that pawn moves are so important. So much could happen with that. And here's another case of that. I don't know how I didn't see this. Again, attacking on the queen side is a very common idea in the Pierce, but I was just thinking about development. And the idea here is if he goes somewhere like here, then I can go c5, and I'm just actually putting intense pressure here. If he goes somewhere like here, I can attack the bishop, and it won't get trapped. But I guess, oh, that is the best move, which is kind of funny. But I guess the computer prefers e6, and if takes, then I can take with the bishop, I can take with the pawn. Apparently c4 is a good move. Okay, makes sense, again, to push it away, and then taking here. So this makes a lot of sense. This is a very, very interesting kind of set of moves, and you can see that you're just taking so much space away from the opponent. It's not easy for your opponent to kind of push through here. And it's a very interesting position. The knight's going to get in soon. I don't know where the knight's going to go, but it's going to go somewhere. And apparently this is being up like 2 pawns, essentially, which is crazy to me. So let's assume this happened. Computer likes d5. If takes, we could take. And if, then what? Castles, you could probably check. And then you lose all your advantage. Knight c6. So basically take a bunch of space and develop your pieces is what the computer is trying to teach me. Let's say this is just a development move. You're putting a lot of pressure here. So, wow, this actually becomes very tricky. Where is your bishop gonna go? So the bishop might be forced to trade at some point. You could take, and now it looks like some serious threats in this position. It looks very annoying to deal with. Something like this to cut off the queen's axis would make sense to me, just looking at this for a split second. The knight comes in maybe to come here. King going to the corner I don't think is that obvious of a move. But okay, let's say they play the best move in the position. Yeah, knight d3, this is just an amazing outpost. We have a potential fork in the future. Yeah, this just looks super powerful. Without losing a piece. This is literally positional play. Without losing a piece, we're up. Essentially, we won the game. We're up 3 points of material, supposedly. Like a whole piece, which is insane. And this is something I need to get better at recognizing in chess. But I guess the idea is, how does white do anything? This is the only way for one of their pieces to come forward. And if they do that, we can take this pawn, attacking the queen. And it does not become very obvious what the next thing, what are the plans for white. It just does not really make sense. And here computer likes taking on c3. Doesn't that just give this up? Oh, wait, I'm dumb. And now you have this idea here, I guess. And the knight doesn't have a great place to go. Wow. Yeah, so I realize a lot when I look at computer moves, a lot of things that are happening have to do with trapping pieces or lowering the mobility of pieces. Like this knight is pretty much screwed. It can't really go anywhere. And because it can't go anywhere, if it goes backwards after this trade, right? Let's say you do something like this, the knight would take. So if it goes backwards, now you probably have some discovered attack, attacking this rook. But now oh no, because you would lose your bishop. So, but maybe that's the idea. Maybe later on you could get a discovered attack on this rook. So this game is a very interesting game. A lot of stuff. I suppose you also have a passed pawn, and very interesting stuff. Okay, let's go back to where we were before. I took here, kind of ruining my advantage a little bit. b5 again makes a lot more sense looking back. But I took, he took. I developed the knight. Looking back, I think e6 is better to do first, because then the knight goes back, then the bishop goes back, sorry. I could develop my knight, I could push maybe to e5, maybe I could do d5, putting even more pressure here. And something like this doesn't make sense because we have more pieces looking here, so he would have to look back. And now we could maybe even come in with this check. Now we could maybe develop this knight, trying to push this pawn. And this just looks like a really nice position to be in. So that makes sense. Let's see what happened in this game. He pushed the pawn. We pushed we pushed the e-pawn. Computer prefers e5, I suppose, to stop any ideas of progressing forward. I mean, this seems like a pretty terrible move just because we have access to this. We have access to taking like this, and his attack kind of falls apart. But instead, we play it like this. We bring the knight there, we take. And here, instead of taking... Oh, taking with the knight back, I saw this. I didn't think it was as good. But okay, it makes like a 0.1 difference, so I'm not going to go crazy about that. And here's our second mistake of the game, d5. So computer liked queen b6, which I considered But what I didn't like about queen b6 was that it feels like he could very easily just stop all the ideas. But I guess this fork comes into play. Also, I can target all this stuff going on here. Or when I say all this stuff, this rook just gets hit. So I just completely missed this idea because the dark squared bishops were traded. I could target the side pawn here. So instead we play the game like this. I targeted this pawn. He came to defend it. And then I had this fork and he resigned. Now, what was his best move here? Computer likes knight e2. But this kind of stops something. But then I would just take this pawn and yeah, I think I'm just completely winning in this position. His king can't get to safety that quickly. A computer likes rook b8 more. I guess this pawn's gonna fall anyway. And if we try to protect it, then I'm targeting this now. And I don't know. I guess you just get more pieces into the battle. So this was an interesting game. Every day I try to take a lesson from the game that we play. The lesson for the first day of this week was basically castled positions with the rook having discovered attacks on stuff, or fianchettoed bishops having discovered attacks when things move out of the way. That was kind of the lesson from the first day of the week that I kind of took from that game. And then the lesson from yesterday's game was forks on kings and rooks, or on, well, yeah, basically queens and rooks or kings and rooks from the position of like c3 with bishops, or the position of something like f3. And the idea behind that is that when a pawn, the b pawn or the g pawn moves forward, it creates space that allows for certain types of tricks. And I think the lesson in this game would be that all the way back here, it has to do with pawn moves, which happened pretty often with the lessons so far, because last week we started with these lesson type things. And here the idea, I think, is that you have to kind of take advantage of the weaknesses right away. And I saw the queen b6 move, but I didn't see targeting b2. I think something I have to start getting used to is this idea of really analyzing what the position calls for. So for example, in a lot of games, I would play b6, and maybe it's not the best move, or maybe it's not that great because of what's going on the board. But here, he's so passive, he has like no pieces developed, that by bringing my queen out to his exposed king, I'm already like creating certain types of threats potentially, that he has to be very careful with how he kind of guards everything. For example, if he does something like this, I'm just bringing more pieces closer to the fight here. And here I could take the rook. If he tries to move the rook aside, we have something like this. And this is just a lost game, right? I don't think this is that crazy to analyze. I think it's pretty clear that this is a lost game. So going back here, I think the big lesson for this game, sometimes it's hard to get lessons when you only play like 10 moves, but the big lesson here is that if you are winning up material, if you have the initiative, try to think more aggressively. And here, I didn't think more aggressively. Queen b6 in the Pierce, with an exposed king, with access to the b2 square, and potentially the rook, but also this check, and also just, you know, I saw the weakness here, but I didn't know how to take control of it. Just bring more active pieces into the battle. I think I should have been able to see that. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you watched this far, say 3, because these arrows are going in like 3 directions, and that's how creative I am today. Also, I sang karaoke last night. I had fun. It was cool. If you like karaoke, then that's cool, because I like it too. So you find, you know, I push in some trivia about myself if you watch this far. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.